Hi, guys. Welcome back to the Girlfriends and Gold podcast YouTube channel. My name is Samaria. This is my best friend and co host, Miyosha. Tonight, we're reviewing Married at First Sight, season 14, episode 6. And before we get into it, please make sure you subscribe. Our goal is to hit 1,000 by the season finale so that way we can go live after it. So please make sure that you are subscribed and definitely comment down below your thoughts on the couple. As always, we ask you to come back on Fridays where we drop our new podcast episode. So make sure you check that out on Friday morning. All right. So we're going to start with Steve and Noy because we didn't have much on them at all. But yeah, Steve and Noy, I still like them, still going strong, right?
Okay.
The one thing that I wrote down that I liked was even though she thought she liked adventure and we're finding out she didn't like adventure in the same way that Steve did, I like that he was very patient with her and that he was really gentle with her. He's like, it's okay, you got it. And then when it got to a point where they had to stop, he said, okay, yeah, it wasn't the best time. Like he didn't make a big deal out of it. He wasn't trying to push her like a certain other somebody who we'll get to later. But yes, I really enjoyed that dynamic. I'm like, dang it, Steve, why don't you have a job? Like you would literally be perfect if you had a job. What did you think about them?
Yeah, so that scene when they were in the water,
Mm-hmm.
they cut to his one-on-one, and he said that he was a little disappointed at how nervous she was, I guess, in the water. But
Yeah.
then when he started getting bit by the fish, I was like, see, you should have been more alert. She was already thinking 2, 3 steps ahead.
Yeah.
So she was nervous for good reason.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I would be interested to hear what is her version of adventurous. So maybe they've talked about it and they just haven't showed it on camera, but I'd be interested to hear like, hey, this is what's adventurous to me, because
Yeah.
he's talked about a lot about what's adventurous to him. And it'd just be interested to see if they have any type of overlap
Yeah.
there between the two.
Or
Now,
or if he's like going to be hesitant to do some of the things that she would want to do, because I think right now we're like, oh, she's hesitant to do his adventure, but what if
mhm,
her adventure is something that he's not so comfortable with either? So yeah.
true. And the other thing that I wrote down is that, you know, he's talked a lot about how he likes adventure, he likes to be on the go. Obviously,
Mhm.
he's just come back from this epic road trip, and she hasn't said that she's a homebody, but it sounds like she likes to travel, but she's okay with being at home as well.
Hmm.
And so I'm kind of interested to see kind of what's his lifestyle balance in terms of like being at home versus being out and being adventurous
Mhm.
versus kind of where she is, because she's talked about how she wants kids. He also wants children as well. But obviously, especially in those early years, once you have children, you may not be able to be as adventurous and out on the go. And
Mm.
that's not to say that some people don't still travel once they have kids. Of course they
Yeah.
do. It's just, it is a lifestyle shift. And it is a bit more challenging, maybe balancing that lifestyle once kids are in the picture. So I'm just curious to see kind of where his mind is as far as like bringing children into the picture, and then his lifestyle of being on the go and adventurous,
Yeah.
and then like where does she fit in that? What do you think?
I think we're about to find out because they're moving in next week. Just because like the way that somebody is on a honeymoon, like this is a vacation, right? So
Mhm.
I think on previous seasons you'll see, okay, people maybe drink a lot more than they would if they weren't, on vacation. Or he's way more adventurous because he's in the space to be that. Like he doesn't have to worry about responsibilities and things like that. So
Mhm.
I'm interested to see, and I can't wait for them to move in together and get back to the normal life so we can see if this thing is real. But I will say, like, one thing that I wrote down was that she said she feels safe and secure. And I was like, dang it,
Mhm.
no wonder you've fallen in love. Because I feel like once you feel like safe and you feel
Mhm.
secure in a relationship, like you're definitely on your way. So the fact that
Mhm.
she used those two words just shows how like how seriously she's thinking about this. But also I think she really is falling in love with him. as early as it is and as crazy as I think it is this soon. But when you feel that way with somebody, I think it's normal to be like, oh, this is love.
Yeah. And it is her husband. So, it's fast, but it is her husband. So I think that adds a different layer to it.
Yeah. Okay. So the next couple that I didn't have too much on, because it felt like they didn't show them for a few minutes at the beginning. Like I feel like we were half an hour into the show before I saw Michael and Jasmina. But
Mm.
what were your thoughts on them this episode?
From the beginning of the episode, was definitely sensing that Jasmina's energy was off and that she seemed down, a little bit awkward, not as interested in engaging with him.
Mm-hmm.
And it was starting to make me feel like, is she really into him, or is this still brewing from what happened earlier?
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely sensed that things were off. And later on in the episode, she did admit, like, hey, I am feeling like, something is off. I'm not as into this. But I did write down that I think Jasmina is one of those types of people where when something happens,
Mm-hmm.
she's locked on it, like
Yes,
a dog on a bone. That it can be difficult for her to move past it. And, with a process like this, even if it was on a normal pace, if you're in a marriage, like you do have to learn how to like address things, deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you say you're going to move on, like really try and move on
Mm-hmm.
and not let it linger too long. Now, it did make me think like, okay, maybe he did blow up in such a way that warrants her still being thrown off, but we didn't see it. Either that, or she's holding on to something that's not really worth holding on to in terms of like her being off about it. Or maybe there was something else that happened off camera that she hasn't said yet.
Okay. I at this point, until more information is given, I think I am leaning towards that she's somebody who doesn't know how to let things go. And you know what I think plays a role in that? Her only being in long distance relationships. So like with the distance, you have your time to cool off, and then you can come back to the person and you guys can get back on the same page. Like you have that time apart. With this, it's like you don't have that, plus you're filming. So it's just a lot of different for her. And I think that's what's coming into play here. So he possibly did blow up in a way, but it seems like he seemed to be moving on from it. But of course, he wasn't the one who got blown up on, but he seemed to be moving away from it. But like from the second they hit the scene, it was just like the energy's off. Like when he would be talking, the way that she would be looking away, the body language, it was just very like tense between them, and I didn't like that. So yeah, I did enjoy though that later on when they got in the water, they were relaxing, and I think he said this is the first time I've seen her laugh since. And so I think what I've heard is like in relationships you have to be ready to forgive quickly and forgive often. And I think, I don't know if that's somewhere that they would get to in 8 weeks. It's going to be different once the experts start to come in more, which when it comes to like Chris and Alyssa, I wish they would have stepped in a little bit differently and a little bit sooner. But I think it's possible, but I don't know that they're going to make it.
Yeah, I heard someone else say that Jasmina is somewhat of a relationship virgin because all of her relationships have been long distance, and that's not really the best representation in terms of like getting you ready maybe for a process like this.
Yeah.
That's like accelerated. And so, yeah, I don't know. With Jasmina, I was just feeling like, girl, assuming that we've kind of seen what it is in terms of like nothing super crazy happened off camera, because I feel like she would have said if it did. It's just making me think like, girl, you have to sometimes pick your battles wisely. And if like, is this the thing that you want to linger on?
Yeah,
so
especially
early in the process. Like
yes.
you're only a few days in. Is this what you want to linger on? And then it started to make me think like, like if you're already on the fence on if you're into someone, it doesn't take much for you to just be like, oh no, and like pull all the way back. So then I started thinking back to the wedding and then, before they left Boston, I'm like,
Yeah.
has Jasmina ever really fully been into him? That's what I started questioning. And I will say things are looking shaky, in my
Okay.
opinion, for them.
I just to add on to what you were saying, like especially after you've expressed to him what the problem was, I think you do have to, if you want this to work, give him a chance to show that he has taken the notes that you gave. And so that's where I think like she needs to like find a way to transition quicker to that. Okay, I've expressed what the problem was. He better not do it again, but you can't keep like holding that against him. The other thing that I would say is actually two things. One, when they were talking to Katina and Olajuwon, he definitely cut her off. And if she wanted to be petty, she could definitely be like, you just had this whole thing with me about cutting you off and here you go, right? But just a minor thing. The other like more major thing that I think will play a role in this is her being good friends with Alyssa. Like it seems like there's some type of relationship there, and we'll talk about it once we get to the dinner. But I don't know that I like that just because of where Alyssa is. I don't think she would be. So like later this episode, we saw that Jasmina and Katina were like a good place for Alyssa to come to get a reality check. I don't know that Alyssa can give that to Jasmina. I don't know that I like her being so tight with somebody who is so disengaged from the marriage part of the process. So I think that could play a role in how she acts.
So I'm glad you brought that up because I actually have a note here that on a scale of 1 to 10, if Alyssa is at like a 10 in terms of like being disengaged from the process, I feel like Jasmina wasn't acting like she was fully at that level.
Yeah.
But she was somewhere along, like she wasn't that far off. Like she wasn't as vocal about it, and her body language wasn't as extreme, but it was definitely giving me those vibes. Yeah. And when I saw them getting cute together, I was just like,
Yes.
Okay.
Also, when we talk about the dinner, like the person who was coming to Alyssa's, I don't want to say defense, because in her diary, what a confessional, she did say, this is what I think it was. This is what I think needs to happen. She was very straightforward, but yeah, whatever friendship that is, I don't like it because I don't like what it means or could mean for her marriage to Michael. Yeah. So
and I'll add quickly that Michael did own up to things quickly. And when they were going back and forth, it seemed like he was the first one to be like, okay, how can I pivot this?
Yeah.
And so that's why I wasn't understanding why she was just holding on to it, because I could understand if he was like, nope, I didn't do anything wrong. And like, if he was so defensive, then I get why she was just like,
yeah.
But he wasn't that way. So we shall see.
Yeah, she might not be feeling him. Okay, so I think next week we go to Mark and Lindsey. I think I have about as much on Mark and Lindsey as I do on Katina and Olajuwon, but let's go with Mark and Lindsey. So the last episode, they ended on a rough note and we didn't know what was going to happen. But this episode, they woke up in the bed together. It seemed like they had a talk that was more calm. I like that Lindsey expressed like, here's why I was mad. This was supposed to be a romantic dinner. It wasn't giving romance. It was giving attack. And, I can see how it caught her off guard. And so I like that she expressed that. I still don't like that she went to like name calling and stuff. So hopefully that's something that she reels in. But I do like that they were able to come back as adults and he was able to express to her what it was that he was feeling, and she was able to say, this is how I feel, especially after sleeping with you multiple times, and then you're saying I want to pull back. So yeah, but I like that they had that mature moment where they were able to resolve whatever issue they had the night before.
Yeah, I'd agree. I could appreciate how they moved on from the fight. I don't want to say fairly easy, but they seemed to be able to talk through it. And I could appreciate that they did it that same night, in that, like some people, I could see how they'd maybe want to sleep on it, but it was nice when they first showed them how they were waking up in bed. They were all smiling. And it really seems like they're just trying to move past things like that are minor, serious but minor,
Yeah.
but really trying to make the most of their time together. And then one other thing that I wrote down about them is how, I guess, the nurse in Lindsey is really starting to come out. She's very helpful. She's like, let me know where you need help and where I need to jump in, tag me in. And I love how she has this attitude of like, hey, you have me now here to help you through these things. Like, you don't have to do it by yourself. So
Yeah.
I love that they showed that side of her and showed that, I guess, tenacity, but in a positive way, because she's been getting a lot of flack for just being over the top. But if you're going through a crazy situation with a landlord slash stand-in mother, that's the type of person that you want by you, who isn't going to let you linger too much on like, oh, well, we can't do this or we can't do that. She's already coming up with a plan, and I could appreciate it.
Yeah, I think where that could possibly backfire, and this is not me trying to be a negative Nancy, so I'm gonna say this just to get it out of the way. Where it could backfire is like, I think when they get back, she's not gonna always account for the fact that those two have had a relationship for a long time. So Mark might want to deal a little bit less aggressively with the landlord, because she's over her. You can already tell she's like, how dare you? Like, we're on this honeymoon. You keep on blowing up his phone, which I totally get. And I think it's warranted. It's just that, like, you can say that to us and to the producers, but when you get back home, you cannot talk to this woman like that. So I hope that she knows the balance. It seems like she's learning in other situations the balance. So, this might just be another learning curve. She doesn't know that it applies to every situation. So that's where I could see it backfire. But 100%, I love that she's like, we're going to go. We're going to get your stuff. We're going to move it to my place. She's like, I'm not playing about my man. And I love that. I love, because he was surprised by it. He was like, okay, that's what
she got my back like that.
Right. So I absolutely loved it. You can tell just based on how they overcame the problem, let it go, and were able to get back to their experience. Like, you can tell they really both came in wanting this to work and willing to put in the effort to make it work. And that's why I hope that they stay together, even though Lindsey is Lindsey. I think she takes his criticism well. So far, she has taken, based on this episode, she must have taken his criticism well, and is like willing to improve. And hopefully he is too. So yeah, I'm rooting for them. I think they can make it, possibly.
Yeah. And, when she was upset last episode, she did say like, oh, when I pull back, I pull way back. But it seems like maybe she was just saying that because it was in the heat of the moment, and that she's not going to let it be a cloud over what they have right now. And in her defense, no new wife would want to come into a marriage with that type of situation going on. And it's kind of obvious that this landlord mother-in-law is kind of trying to flex her position, because it's not just the situation probably with the apartment, but her calling back to back to back and just like doing the most, knowing that he can't do anything about it while he's there. She's definitely trying to flex, and Lindsey does not back down easy. So I hope that he's also able to kind of find that balance of making sure that my wife feels comfortable with her position, but then it not letting, this landlord mother do too much. But obviously he doesn't want to ruin that relationship completely because she's been there. But then you also have to step up because your wife is in the picture. And I don't know too many women who would take that lightly.
Yeah. Yeah, but I think it seemed for like towards him, she maintained her cool. So like, you know,
Yeah.
at the producers and at the camera, she was like, how dare you? And all this stuff. But it seems like when it happened, like you would see her looking over like she's calling again. But she didn't let that affect her support of him. Like she didn't take that frustration out on him. So
Oh,
I
yeah.
appreciated that. I'm rooting for them. I love how they handle things this episode, and I hope that that's a sign of good things to come for them. One other thing, I like that they had the religion talk, just because in like
Oh,
past seasons it's
yeah.
been a big deal. So I think it's really good that they talked it out at the beginning just to see where the other person was and seemed to come to some type of agreement on what they'll be doing. And I loved that after the dinner that he complimented her on how she handled Alyssa at the dinner. Because,
Yes.
you know, like when you're trying to make an effort and the person you're trying to make the effort for or to impress doesn't even notice, it's like, dang, you didn't see all that I just did.
You
So
better give me my credit.
right. So I love that he brought that up and was like, I appreciate it pretty much that you kept your mouth closed.
And Lord knows it took everything in her.
Yes, yes. All right. So let's talk about Katina and Olajuwon. Then we can talk about Chris and Alyssa and go into the dinner with them because I think it's only fitting.
Okay.
All right. So Katina and Olajuwon. So she does not like animals and she was nervous. And I did not like how Olajuwon handled that. I think he was very impatient. He wasn't listening to her. I think there were so many ways that he could have handled that. And when Steve and Noy had their thing, I'm like, I hope Olajuwon's taking notes because this is how you handle it. You know, like this is how you handle it. You have to be tender. You have to be gentle with your spouse. You cannot be like, go, go, go when she's scared. Like, I am scared. Like, you cannot tell me to go and I'm scared and you're her husband, not her trainer. So no,
Yeah.
you can't be pushing her like that.
Yeah, I was just thinking like, dude, you're not her coach, you're not her trainer. I don't know what he does for a living, but it's giving me sports trainer type of vibes. And I think that if in certain areas or activities she expresses to you, hey, I want you to push me on that, but give her the space to communicate that to you so you know where and when to push her. And I don't know. I understand with a spouse, you may want to encourage them.
Yeah.
But I think it just comes with a different energy that he just needs to tone down and choose his words wisely. And with an activity like that, especially like the scenes where the horse trainer was kind of like further away, I'm like, if she's already scared and nervous, you don't need to rile her up. The horse gets riled up. You're doing an activity where someone could get hurt.
Yeah. And there were points where I felt like he was trying to get like riled up a little bit. And she's like, okay, calm down. Because like you could say things like, oh, okay, I understand she wanted to stop and he was trying to say, okay, let's not stop. But there are other ways like, okay, here, I'll ride a little bit closer to you. I'll be right here beside you. It's okay. I got you. Or I won't go as fast. Something, but not, no, we're not quitting. Come on, let's go. Let's go. Like, who are you? So yeah, I could definitely understand her frustration with that. And then he said something like, I'm not going to slow down just because my wife wants me to. Sir, you are in a marriage. Like, you could listen, you could either slow down or be alone. Like you can't do that with your wife.
He said, yeah, I don't want to not have my life experiences just because my wife doesn't want to do certain things.
Yeah.
And this is where I think, I don't know, some people just have different expectations in terms of what their spouse will and won't be doing with them. And so in that moment, I knew he was just talking, at least it sounded like it, because he did acknowledge after the fact, like, yeah, that probably wasn't the best thing to say. But either way, it's just like, I think you should manage your expectations on hobbies, adventurous type things. Like there will be things that y'all will be able to do together that will be your things. And then there will be things that she wants to do that will be her things. And then there will be things that neither one of y'all want to do. And then you need to go find a bro or your girlfriend to do it with you.
Yeah.
And, you know, I don't know if maybe that mindset just comes with being married and understanding like over the course of the lifetime, you're not going to be aligned on all these random things. So in extreme is like, oh, my life is going to have to stop and I can't experience. No, you can experience certain things. Your wife just maybe doesn't have to do it with you and vice versa. And I'm not downplaying the pleasure that comes with doing things with a spouse.
Yeah.
But I think you just have to find that balance.
I think, so for them, I think Katina never just lets things go. So I think maybe off camera or something, she always addresses it because he always comes back and is like, oh, I could have handled that better. I could have handled that better. So I wanted to say that I think he's a bit much sometimes, but I think where that works is that she's like toned down a bit. So that might be the compliment. Like he wouldn't work with like a Jasmina, you know? Like,
no.
That would be a disaster. But like because Katina is more, and I think Michael and Jasmina, I mentioned this about them, which even in their side-by-side confessional, it was like she was talking and he was just like looking everywhere else. When he would talk, she was just like this. Anyway, but back to Olajuwon and Katina, I think that her, I don't know what to call it, whatever it is that her personality is, balances his too muchness in a way where she's very direct about what she likes and doesn't like, but not in a way where he feels like, oh, she's always trying to tell me what to do. Like, I think he, to his credit, accepts her criticisms well too, and is willing to make the change. So I never know about him because like you love him one minute and then you don't know about him the next. But I will say in this episode towards the end, like seeing that he took her feedback and was speaking about that incident differently at the end, I'm like, okay, Olajuwon, you might win us over.
You know what I think it is? People like him who are very hype, when they're like in the moment, they're in that emotion. Being with a person like Katina who can just sit there and be like, okay, that works. That dynamic of them, of that dynamic of a Katina not matching his energy or not trying to be like, no, you're wrong. Just being like, oh, okay, dude. And I've seen couples in real life who have that type of dynamic. And I'm like, oh, I know she's gonna get you together when y'all get to the car or later on. And I think it's the best way to handle people who can have that hype personality, because sometimes if you just wait a little bit and they're like, you know what, you're right, I was doing too much. And I think for her, she doesn't mind that. She's like, oh, I can always address it later. It's no big deal.
And he'll listen to me.
And he'll listen to me. He's had time to calm down. So yeah, I think that's why their dynamic work, because Katina doesn't seem like one of those people who needs to like get their point in right then. Because I could even tell like certain angles in the camera, she's just like, okay, like whatever.
Yeah, I like that. That's when we say like there's somebody for everybody, like that. This is literally because Olajuwon would not work for a lot of people, but I think the experts might have hit the nail on the head with this one, where like even after they've had tension, they come and show up. Where, and I'm not trying to compare the couples, but like with Michael and Jasmina, when they had that thing, it was like it was giving off the energy of, we just fought in the car and now we got to come here and be around people. Like, you know, you pull up to the event and y'all just had a little thing in the car and you are pissed at the other person, but y'all got to go in here and talk to these people because y'all agreed to come to the party. That's what their energy was giving this entire episode, except for the end when they were, you know, in the water, which hopefully she'll move past this thing. Because even at the end of that, sorry to go back to that, but even at the end, she was like, you know, I can't say I'm 100% past that. And it's like, just man, come on, y'all just had a moment. Like, anyway.
No. And I was just gonna add that we've seen a lot of Olajuwon trying to push Katina out of her comfort zone. But
Yeah.
I'm interested to see what things are outside of his comfort zone and if he'll take that encouraging or pushing energy from her as well. She doesn't seem like the type to do that, but
Yeah.
there's always something that's outside of your comfort zone. So I don't know, Olajuwon, you're willing to dish it. I hope you can take it.
Yeah, we'll see. But I think what we're seeing with them though is what this show should be about. Like I think in the last few seasons there's been some drama. And so like you can't focus on maybe what the theme of the show is, but I think you can literally see two people growing towards each other. And so it's really nice to watch. Like they're not going to be perfect, especially him, but you can see like that they're growing to a point where they're understanding each other and what's acceptable and what's not acceptable in their relationship. So I'm here for it. I am here for them. Um, all right, we have to talk about Chris and Alyssa. Um, yeah, so the experts set up this tennis date where it's like, okay, we can come and do an activity where we're not side by side, which I feel like they are catering to Alyssa a little bit more than I would want. Like, I think as the audience, we want somebody to check her, not somebody to be like, oh, okay, she doesn't like that, let's do this. And the reason why I say that is not because I want a woman to be uncomfortable. It's because I don't think she's trying. Like it would be different if someone was like, oh, I'm really not comfortable. And so they're like, okay, let's work with you on this. But because I think she's just completely against the process, like, why are y'all trying to work with her? Why are you guys trying to yeah. But anyway, she's a good person if you missed it. She's a really good person.
Well, I think it's not even that it's not just that she's not trying, it's that she's trying to create a whole new process and she's just outright lying.
Yeah.
To try to prolong her being on the show.
Yes.
And trying to make him think that he's a bad person, portray him in a bad light. So I don't even think it's that she's trying. It's like gaslighting, sabotage.
Yeah.
And she's also insulting him. And I don't like how, the show seems like they're trying to continue to give them activities when it's so obvious that she doesn't want to be with him.
Yeah.
But, it kind of makes for good TV by keeping her on there as long as possible. But then it's at his expense. Yeah. And I don't like that.
Like when she said, oh, I could have left yesterday, but I'm still here. Yeah, but you're not still here for me. You're still here because you're getting a free vacation. Let's be real. And that's what is upsetting about her and this whole move-in decision thing, is that you just got your own room this entire vacation, and now you're trying to like slide your way into like this is not the real world where you get to move in with your friends or with people who are your peers or whatever and have a good time. That's not what this show is. And I love that one producer came out and was like, girl, it's called Married at First Sight, not Single at First Sight. So what are you gonna do, because we moving in? Like I like that he was the only one who gave it to her straight, because the other producers were over her, you could tell, but they were trying to be nicer about it.
That, and she's also, so not only is she not being honest with Chris, she's not addressing it and being all direct as she said that she was, but she's also basically lying to the other people too. So she has to sit down with Katina and Jasmina, and she never once just comes right out and says, I'm not attracted to him.
Yeah.
Not once. Like, these are your girls who you want to spend time with, who you feel like you've been robbed of the process with. You can at least be honest with them, even if you can't do it with Chris.
Yeah. I think those were definitely the two people who she needed to talk to, because they saw all through that, and
which I'm so glad.
I am too. They delivered it in a nice way. They weren't rude about it, but they're like, here's what we think is going on. But at the beginning, so when they sat down at the tennis court, she and Chris, and he said, okay, so we're going to be moving in. That's the next step in this process. He asked her, what are your thoughts on that? And she said, I don't feel comfortable. And then she had the audacity to say that he had made the decision for her. Like, he was trying to be understanding. And he's like, you know, you can move in if you want to. So it seemed like what she wanted was for him not to want to move in. Like, at the beginning, she's like, oh, I want to move in. But he's being selfish because he also wants to move in. Like, what? Like, he's being selfish because he wants to do exactly what you want to do. Like, what is this? But I do think maybe Chris should like cut his losses, and I don't think she should be allowed to move in. I will say that. I don't think she should be allowed to move in at all. It's either I'm with him, it's all or nothing, like the theme song says. If both of them move in, great, but one of them should not be able to move in and the other one not.
She definitely wanted him to forfeit moving in, and the way that she did it was extremely manipulative, you know, trying to make it seem like he's doing something, that's why I can't move in, I'm being robbed of this process. No, girl, you're the one doing this to yourself.
That was the final straw for me when she said she was the one who was being robbed. And it's like, this is not the show where you come on to find a friend. Like, what? Okay. The thing that I want to get to is how, sorry, it's just her. But like, so she's sitting on the side. He's literally standing there being a human. That is all this man is doing. He is breathing. He's like swinging his arms. I mean, look at his hand gestures. And then the one producer goes, they're just hand gestures. He's like, yeah, but look at them. They're so aggressive. Like, do you know how, and I'm trying to be mindful because, you know, this is a person, I know she's getting a lot of like feedback, negative feedback from the internet. But do you know how like mean of a person you have to be to just sit there and find things to nitpick? That is so hateful. That is such hateful behavior. And I'm glad that she said straight up, I hate him. But when she said it, she was trying to make it seem like he's done something to make him, to make her hate him. No, like, you're just hateful, I think. And that's what made me mad. Like, he's just being a human. And the last thing on that is like the producer was doing the same hand motions the whole time they were standing in front of each other, and she wasn't like, oh, he's being all aggressive, and he's not, because it's literally normal life. Like, how is pointing to the sky aggressive? Like, he could have been pointing at a star or something. Like, this man is just living and you're just finding things to nitpick about. Sorry, go ahead, 'cause that's my
No, and then she actually had the nerve to say, if you guys portray me as being a bad person, I'm going to be so pissed. Girl, you have made it so easy. They haven't had to do anything. They haven't had to coach you, nothing. And, you know, maybe she didn't know that she was still being recorded when her and the producers were off having their moment, but she should have watched enough reality TV at this point to know that unless you're in your hotel room with the door closed
and no protection.
And I've even seen them put the mic close up on the door if they really want to get some extra tea. Like, I've seen them do that. So, girl, you're making it so easy. And you're right. It is hateful. And like I said, it's unfortunate. You know, they're seeing her basically gaslight him, make him think that he's envisioning things. And kudos to Chris, because not only is he keeping his calm, his communication skills are on point. Because I don't even know if I'd be able to find the word to say to this girl. But the way he just sits there, just like, okay.
He'll chuckle every now and then because it is kind of ridiculous. But
the way that he finds the words, he's not over emotional. He's still so thoughtful and not hurting her feelings. Now, you could tell towards the end, he was getting a little agitated. But even when he sat down with Mark and Lindsey, I think that was earlier in the episode, he still seemed somewhat hopeful. But we're starting to see, you know, the light bulb switch on, like, okay, I
Yeah.
see her for what she is.
And if the conversations she's having with him look anything like what she had with the people at the dinner table, where she refuses to just straight up say things, I can see why he's hopeful. Because at first I'm just like, oh, hang it up, my guy. But if she's not willing to say, then that gives him a sense of false hope. And I was saying, like, I wrote down that Alyssa, the good person, is very childish and doesn't want to have difficult conversations, because
Oh
the
yeah.
number of times where she sat down and said, okay, well, I don't like where this is going, so I'm gonna walk away. It's like that shows like not even a modicum of maturity at this point. Like, you can't get up and walk away just because you don't like what's being said. And then, like, when she was looking at the producers during one conversation, like, do you hear this? Yes, girl, we hear it, because he's at the point where you need to make a decision. You're not being direct. You lied to us. You told us you were direct. You're not. And you need to straight up say, I'm not attracted to you. I'm straight up say, I'm ready to get a divorce. But on the after party, somebody said something like, Lindsey, I guess, had overheard her on the phone with her lawyers trying to get everything like maybe annulled or figure out how the best way to get out of this. And then when they went to sign the paperwork, she signed the papers, but the priest was like, oh, I married you guys, so like I guess he tried to get them to say I do again, just for like the significance of the moment. And Chris said it and she was like quiet. She didn't like take his number, because he's like, oh, you can take my number, and because we're about to go on the honeymoon, that we can communicate with each other. And she was like, oh, I'll get it when I need it, or I know where to find it if I need it.
Wow.
She is a horrible person, and the fact that she has to keep repeating that she's a good person shows how horrible she is. Because not one good person that I know has ever had to say, I'm telling them you're such a good person. Like, they don't ever have to say that about themselves, especially not at least 50 times in one episode.
And then, so the whole point of this process is to be married and then decide if you want to stay in it.
Mm-hmm.
But she keeps saying that she can't say one way or the other right now. But I don't think it's that they're expecting her to say, like, hey, I want to stay married past the 8 weeks. It's just like, no, do you even want to move in the house?
They're giving her an
No.
out.
Yeah. Like, do you even want to be around him? Do you even want to talk to him? Like, the fact that they won't push her to say something one way or another on those things at this point in the process, to me, should not even be allowed.
Yeah, a lot of people on Twitter are like, where are the experts? Because I think the experts try to stay away during the honeymoon, and just give things a chance to develop. But I think this might be an instance where they should just step in a little bit more than an activity of like tennis. I think
They should have sent her home if by the second day of the honeymoon, if she hadn't found a way to at least do a few activities on her own with him, be in the same room with him, they should have said, hey, you're not fully participating in the process.
Yeah.
So we're going to X you out at this point.
Yeah.
She shouldn't be allowed to just be like, well, I don't know. And then we're going to get to the dinner scene where she gives this super crazy idea.
Yeah, but they also said, like, on the plane ride, she put a producer in between them. Like, I don't understand how she doesn't see this as mean. She's very much a mean girl, trying to pass off as a good person, because I'm a really good person. And like, even her mom's like, girl, at this point you trash, because why you being mean to this man?
She's like, my mom is gonna be so pissed. You should be mad at yourself.
I mean, I don't know if she's gonna show up to the reunion after all of this, but
girl, can you imagine what her friends are thinking?
They're probably embarrassed. If you went on a show like this, any picture I had with you on Instagram is coming down, because y'all not about to attack me in the comments because my best friend went on TV and acted crazy. But I like when the girls were like, did you feel like you did everything you could? And she was like, well, here's the thing. No, did you do everything you could? Because you know you did it. And then later on, when Chris was like, I am willing to work on things. Like if there were things that you don't like, I am happy to work on those. And she's like, well, I told you things. And he's like, what things have you told me? And then of course, she's like, it's not a conversation I want to have now. But yeah, let's do the dinner because Jesus.
Let's start with something good. How proud we are of Lindsey.
Oh my gosh. Girl.
Listen.
She kept it together. Okay.
Now her neck was like.
Right, her face. And she's like, Lindsey, can you please not make that face? Oh, I didn't do nothing. Because I really thought, I was like, oh, Lindsey's about to go off on her. But she did it. And I'm so proud of you, Lindsey, because you're learning. Don't put your husband in those situations where he got to come and apologize for you, girl.
And it's none of your business, even though I'm sure it was extremely hard for them to watch.
I can't even imagine being there. Like, that's why I don't understand how Jasmina's her friend. I don't get it.
I mean, that may say something about Jasmina, but well,
I hope not. But yes, proud of Lindsey.
But yeah, so everyone's talking about, I guess, their own individual situations. They're kind of opening up about things that they're learning. OJ seems to be open to criticism and being able to, change. Jasmina, her energy still seems off.
Yeah.
And
Stephen Noy talking about the 3 kids.
Yeah.
Possible.
Yeah. Which, I thought the conversation about kids was cute. And I'm of the mindset, was it Steve who said, we'll have those and then we'll see about adding the extra one?
Chris said that. He was like, you'll know if you want a 3rd child once you have the first 2.
Yeah. And some would agree with that. Kind of start with 1 or 2 and then see how you feel. And then every child is different. And yeah, I mean, the biggest thing was, when Lindsey, which I don't know if the producers asked her to ask, but she was the one who asked, so how are things with, you with Chris and Alyssa? Like, how are things with y'all? And I'm just like, Lindsey, now you just had a sit down with Chris by yourself.
You know.
Here you are being messy.
Yes. And then Alyssa comes up with this elaborate idea, which of course she hasn't told Chris because she's not talking to the man. And so she's like, well, I think we should come to an agreement. Like, neither one of us wants to miss out on this experience. So I think that, I could move into the apartment for the first half and then you could move in for the other half, because I guess if the girls, want to just have somebody come over, I can't just come over. Okay, girl, you'll see them in 8 weeks. Also, let these women enjoy their husbands. Give their marriages a chance.
Don't you have friends in real life who are used to your shenanigans? And I'm not trying to be funny, but y'all are cool because y'all are on this show and you have that in common. But if you ain't staying with your husband, then you don't have that in common. So they're probably not trying to hang out with you like that. The look on everyone's faces, especially Olajuwon.
Hold on, let me pull it up because I was just so ticked up. Like, Olajuwon is all of us.
Listen,
that's gonna be our thumbnail.
Like, what is this? And then what did Chris say? Like, we're not divorced parents having to like split custody or something like that.
Yeah, like it's not like, oh, we'll divide the apartment. You'll do half, I'll do half. Like, and I thought he made so much sense. I thought he really articulated himself very well at the dinner and just was like, you're not having a conversation. And that's why when Jasmina was like, well, I think Chris, you need to respect. He's been respecting it, Jasmina. Calm down, relax.
Jasmina, you need to be quiet and get your attitude together, ma'am. And work on having some sweet, comforting energy for your own husband.
Right. Girl, remember when he was like, oh yeah, I feel like I react this way because of all my trauma. And she was like, for real. She gave him nothing. Like, Dang.
She's giving me Ice Queen. I don't know. Just
Yes. I want to like everybody on this season because I do think the experts maybe at least tried. But anyway, so yeah, so she comes up with this plan which he had never heard before, and everybody's like, this is insane. How she can't see that is beyond me. And then at one point she starts crying for what I don't know, because I like, what do you have to cry for?
I can't stand when people do that, because you're manipulating the situation instead of focusing on, who are you going to be moving in? Are you all in on this process? Now everyone's energy is diverted to making sure that you're okay. Mm-hmm. When poor Chris, who's actually been the one having this thing being done to him, is expected to sit there and be strong.
Yeah.
And not show emotion. And was it Katina? She did try to step up and say like, hey girl, like, be direct.
Yes.
Just say how you feel. Like, Katina was trying to coach her as best as she could, but it was pointless.
You know who was not here for her? Olajuwon in that confession. She's like, how can you not feel the man? He's out here pouring he's saying like, even if you have 1% of hope, I'm gonna take. How can you not feel for the man? I was like, okay, Olajuwon, because you're speaking, you better preach.
Okay. I love how everyone though could see straight through her BS. They were looking at her like she was
my favorite song.
They were looking at her like she was crazy. Like, girl, what is this? Yeah. So in her attempt to try to make him look like whatever, she made herself look like a fool.
And I think she's realizing it because she's like, oh, he's going through all the steps to make me look like the bad person, to paint me in. And I don't think like he's even trying to do that. What did she call him earlier? Like, oh, he's a salesman who sells he's a car salesman who sells real estate. Like,
he's a bad car salesman who sells houses or something.
You haven't even had conversations with him to know that. Like, you're just assuming things about him at this point, or taking. And that's why I don't like her and Jasmina being friends, because she's the one to take one thing and run with it, and so is Jasmina now. And it's like,
but I think when they were sitting on the beach, Katina, Jasmina, and Alyssa it was Katina and Jasmina that said, well, you want to get to know him for him, because you can't just latch on to what someone's family is saying about them. So Jasmina was talking a good talk, but she
don't walk it out, but she talks it for sure. She has, like, that's the thing, like, she has everything. And I understand, because I think even like when you're single and go from single to in a relationship, like a lot of the smack that you were talking, like, oh no, you need to be soft, you need to be forgiving to your man. When you're in it and somebody does something that rubs you the wrong way, you're like, I'm not speaking to you for 48 hours minimum. So I do think, and that's why I want to be hopeful, because I think Jasmina has it all here. There's just something that's making it not translate into actual actions.
And it could be her lack of
experience,
in-person relationship experience. And that's not to say that people who date long distance can never transition into a relationship like this. It's just, this is a unique process. It's fast-tracked. So even for the person who's had all their relationships in the same city, it's still a big jump. So I can't even imagine going from, oh, this person is out of state, to living with a man.
And her personality just might not be that. Like, some people might have it easier because their personalities are different, not better or worse, just different. But yeah, so after that dinner, Alyssa and Chris have a sit down, which doesn't necessarily go well. So, and I feel like he pretty much had to approach that dinner the way that he did. She's not talking to me. She'll say she's going to talk to me. That conversation will never happen. Or she'll like walk away from it. And so I like that in front of everybody, even though she was like, oh, I'm not comfortable saying this with everybody. That was just a cop out, because she's not comfortable saying it at all, and never will, and wants to keep like stringing him along. At this point, I don't even know if it's that she likes the attention, or because this man would be on his merry way if you just said what you needed to say. So if you're so annoyed by him, let him go. But she's manipulative and she knows, oh, okay, if I let him go, that ends the process for me. And it should. It should have ended the
Yeah.
process for you yesterday because you didn't stay for him. You stayed for you.
Right. Yeah. I will say though, I do wish that I understand like Chris being all in on the process, but I do wish that he would kind of come to the realization on his own,
And
like,
dump her.
and just be like, okay, I'm walking away. Like, I don't like to see when people are obviously being drugged through the mud and
Yes.
then they're waiting for the person to end it with them. Like, Alyssa strikes me as a type where she may not break up with the person, even if she was in a relationship, but she'd do everything that she could to try to force their hand
Yeah.
to get them to break up with her. So then she could be like, oh, well, you dumped me. And
Yeah.
that's what I'm getting with this situation where she doesn't want to be the one to be like, I'm ending things. I'm quitting the process. She keeps basically saying, I was all in. I'm still here, aren't I?
Yeah. And it's like if you're gonna be here like this, don't be here. And it shows a lack of maturity, that you can't just say, hey, a spade is a spade and grow up. Like literally, you need to grow up and communicate and be like, you need to understand this process is not for you to make friends. If you do in the process, wonderful, but it's not for you to make friends. You are here for a reason. If you're not accomplishing that task, move on with your life and allow this man to do the same and allow this production. Listen, I said her production team really earned their keep because they earn every single dime that Lifetime is paying them because she is a piece of work. You hear me? A piece of work. They got to be coming all out in their comfy clothes. Now they're on camera, like they're the stars of the show.
Well, they thought they was off work for the rest of the night.
Okay, she got us over here talking about aggressive pointing to the sky. Like, girl.
And it's like she has no problem throwing cheap shots. Oh, he's this. Oh, well, he's that. So you have
Yeah.
no issue with being opinionated and saying how you feel. But then when it comes to saying something
Yeah.
that could free him of this process, you can't do it.
I don't like where this conversation is going right now because I'm really a good person and I'm just gonna walk away. Like, who thinks Alyssa is a good person at this point? Raise your hand.
Put it in the comments. Thumbs up, thumbs down.
I know it's like if she would have handled it differently, I would have felt for her. But it's the way she's going about it because nobody's saying stay with someone you're unattracted to. Nobody's saying force a marriage. Nobody's saying any of that. We're just saying be direct about it. Be kind about it. Don't keep saying you're a nice person, but giving us mean actions every time we turn around.
And insulting this man for no reason.
All he did was show up for work and here you go. Like he didn't even ask for this beating. And here he is just getting it because he showed up to film. Like, relax.
And he was just like, oh, well, you can do whatever you want to do. Like, if I want to move in, I'll move in. If you don't want to move in, you don't have to move in.
And she didn't like when he was like, oh, it sounds like you have a choice to make. Girl, you do. She was like, I'm like, yes, Chris, get her.
You better stand your ground.
Exactly.
Listen. So I didn't watch the after show. I think I did watch the clip for next week. Do you want to give our predictions at this point, who we think is going to make it or not, or you want to wait?
So we gave them at the beginning. I think we should revisit at the 1 year anniversaries. 1 month anniversary.
Okay.
Yeah, I think revisit at the 1 month anniversary and then we will go from there. But so far I stand by everybody who I said was gonna make it and not gonna make it. I'm still not sure about Mark and Lindsey, but we'll see. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. Make sure you put in the comments your thoughts about everybody because we want to hear. We love reading the comments.
We really do.
Please go ahead and leave us a comment on what you thought about Jasmina and Michael's energy. They didn't get much screen time this episode, but I'm kind of okay with it because of the tension that was clearly there. Of course, I know we were going to talk about Alyssa, the good person. She's going to probably be our thumbnail because she's such a good person. Why wouldn't she be? All right. Don't forget to subscribe if you made it to the end, and come back tomorrow for our podcast episode. All right. We'll see you guys next week. Bye.
Bye.